Alright, folks, welcome back to CWRL's Fight Night at the Freedom Factory. We just finished up our third matchup of round one, which saw the Intimidators victorious over the Silver Foxes. The Intimidators pretty much pulling off a complete and total clean sweep of round one, taking pretty much all of the possible points that they could be taking, unless there was some kind of mishap for the other team that would have allowed them to take more. But we are now all set for the final matchup of round one, which will feature the King's Court, our fourth place points team, taking on number one Racing. Now, both of these teams right now, number one Racing 8th in points, but still a good opportunity for either team to close the gap on their opponents. Number one Racing doesn't have too far to go to catch up to the Legion of Supermen, who are currently in the 7th points position right now. And I imagine, any spot up in the chart in the points is a good thing, and if you can even break into that top four, that's a great thing because the top four are guaranteed starting seeds for the main event tournament at any CWRL event. And that being said, let's see how the qualifying lineup starts here for this final heat race of round one. See, number one Racing, the checker car, holds the pole position with the checker car for the King's Court in that catbird seat, that third position, which is easily able to become the leader right off the bat if they're able to seize the opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see which one of these teams jumps out to the lead and starts scoring points here. Will the King's Court be able to do like the Intimidators have done and take advantage of the top two in points, the Candyman and Boogity Boogity Racing, faltering and falling this evening in this evening's fight night? We'll see here in just a moment as the green flag is out. You can see the checker car for number one Racing got a good jump, able to keep that lead. And you can see that the checker car for the King's Court trying to challenge for that second position. And he's able to pull it off as he now battles the leader on the inside line and will take the lead away from number one Racing. And now each of them have scored a point for leading laps. King's Court in command of the field right now. There's Checker's car showing the way. So we are down to about 9 minutes remaining here. That would be 9 minutes at the mark. And wow. See, there's some chaos here as the wrecker car now on pit road for the King's Court, and this is going to spell disaster for the King's Court. So you can see the checkers car for the King's Court showing the way, but with their wrecker car stuck on pit road, that is 10 points for every lap the checkers car for number one Racing puts them down. Meanwhile, you can still see the wrecker car up on pit road here. Gonna be a while before they get back on track. So you're down to 8 minutes remaining in this heat. He gets back on to the track, and you can see is several laps down to the leader, now right behind the leader. As the checkers car for number one Racing will make the most of that opportunity. hopefully able to chase down the checkers car or the wreckers car for the Kingsport and take advantage of another 10 points that they could score. Meanwhile, you can see that the checkers car for the Kingsport remains on point, working on their 13th lap. It looks like Number One Racing has scored 30 points off putting that wrecker car for the Kingsport 3 laps down. And the wrecker car for Number One Racing now was wrecked by the leader, but he more so wrecked himself. As you can see, the checkers car for Number One Racing taking advantage of that, moving into the second position now. You can see the wrecker car fighting hard with the checker car, teammates battling. That wrecker car wants to get one of those 4 laps back. Meanwhile, you can see a traffic jammer for Number One Racing was put down a lap by the leader. That is 3 more points for the Kingsport. You're down to 5.5 minutes remaining in this first round heat. Kingsport dominating this first round matchup against Number One Racing, but caught up in misfortune as their wrecker car wound up getting put on its roof and thus forced onto pit road for several laps. Giving Number One Racing the opportunity to score 30 points, hoping for 10 more, hoping for 40 points here. But I still believe that the Kingsport holds the advantage as long as the checker car, the leader, remains the leader. You can see that he has cleared a lot of this lap traffic, as there is a whole multitude of cars between the checkers car in first place for the Kingsport and that wreckers car spinning out again. That just gave those 10 points to Number One Racing. That brings their total up to 40. Coming up on 3.5 minutes remaining in this first round heat. The Kingsport, I believe, holds the advantage over Number One Racing, but Number One Racing holds the points advantage currently with 40 points just by virtue of lapping the wrecker car for the Kingsport 4 times now. You can see that the checkers car for the Kingsport continuing to show the way here. We're down to 2.5 minutes. King's Court has at least 2 cars between him and second place, the Checkers Court, or the Checkers car for number 1 racing. Excuse me. Meanwhile, number 1 racing looking to seize the opportunity of 6 more points in their front windshield here. Coming down to the final minute and a half here of the first round here at Fight Night, and the King's Court doing what they need to do to defeat number 1 racing and move on to take on the Intimidators. And you can see that the Checkers car just got caught up with some of that traffic jammer action, but recovered to continue on the lead. We got 1 minute remaining here. So we switch into chopper view once again. King's Court looking to pull out of this and overcome the 40 points they gave to number 1 racing by virtue of the record car of the King's Court getting wrecked and caught up on pit road. 30 seconds left. There'll be 2 to go at the line as time will expire on this lap. Time has expired, and the King's Court just has to complete 1 more lap here. So he gets by his own traffic jammer. Coming out of turns 3 and 4. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it right there. So that's traffic jammer. It's the record car. So the record car got 10 of those points back. So number 1 racing will only have scored 30 points there. But they did not lap any of the other traffic jammers there. But I believe that checker car for number 1 racing did lead a couple laps at the beginning here. So let's go and take a look at that. They didn't lead very many, but they led the first lap. That was it. So they get 1 point for leading laps and 30 points for the record car that they lapped 3 times. So 31 points today for number 1 racing, plus 10 for going home in the first round. 41 points. Very impressive performance in the first round for a defeated team. It was still better performance than the first 2 matchups where the Smokehouse was barely able to come out of it with 40 points. That's still more than the Smokehouse scored, and they lost. But the King's Court here, let's see. all but 2 laps. So you get 40 points plus 25 points for 65. And they did lap all of their lap traffic. So that is 9 more points for 74 points. Very impressive showing by the King's Court as they go into round 2. And the Intimidators only have a 2-point advantage on them. So definitely excited to see how that round 2 matchup unfolds. And round 2 matchups will have 15 minutes instead of 10 minutes to settle things. So a lot more time for chaos to ensue, for laps to be led, for traffic jammers to be wrecked, for chaos to happen. So definitely stay with us as we get round 2 set up for CWRL's Fight Night at the Freedom Factory. Don't go anywhere.